She said it was kind of between Phoenix and Scottsdale. I guess are they close? Okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
Call this meeting to order. Orange Planning Commission starting the meeting at 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, July 27th, 2017. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a solid invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Amen. Please call the roll.
John Junko?
Here.
Newton White?
Here.
Mike Arminio?
Here.
Bo Bothme?
Here.
Thomas Jordan?
Here.
Maria Mills Bennett?
Here.
Lance Green?
Gone fishing.
Got some lobster.
All right. Item number 4, consideration of the minutes.
I want to make it says June 22nd, 2017. That's incorrect. Was it June 22nd? Okay, never mind. I'm taking it back.
Yeah, it was.
What month are we in?
Oh, today's going to be
I
fun.
thought it was August. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Listen, I have dinner
Hey, you
plans
think,
after this.
right?
Pull it together.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes approved. Item number 5, case number 17-700000002. Special exception mini warehouse and motor vehicle and boat storage facility in the Community Commercial Zoning District, 6250 South Williamson Boulevard, continued from June 22nd, 2017.
Tim Berman, Community Development. Yes, so the item was continued by the Planning Commission last month. They requested that the applicant go and speak with Volusia County regarding what type of access and improvements would be required with this proposed development. The applicant has since met with Volusia County Traffic Engineering, and they are here to present basically what was discussed at that meeting in terms of access for the site. So if you don't have any more questions for me, I'll let the applicant present the what they were able to work out with the county then.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Berman before the presentation?
Got plenty last time.
This is better. Hi. For the record, my name is Glenn Storch. I represent the applicant in this case. I think last time Joey Posey from my office was here, he is celebrating his father's birthday with him tonight. So apparently he's made sure that I could do this and has done everything he can to make sure this is right. I'm going to do my best. Bottom line is that last time, there were a number of questions from the board regarding this. There was and so we came back and we've clarified a lot of the issues. First of all, I wanted to start with some of the changes that were taking place since last time. If you recall, last time there was a site plan that was sort of bubble-ish as far as how this thing was going to be on there, and also set aside a certain area of this for a commercial site. That has now been changed. The entire site is now going to be used for the mini warehouse, so there'll be no other commercial areas that will be part of this. At the same time, we've also shown how the entrances will be. Those entrances have been approved by the county in our reviews with them, and so that all works nicely. I'll tell you what it also does. By limiting this to only this use, our traffic impacts are almost negligible. So, and you'll see that as we go a little further down on this. In addition, we've had the opportunity to meet with the Sanctuary HOA representatives to discuss their concerns. And one of the concerns they had is to preserve as much natural vegetation along Roscoe Turner as possible. We've agreed to that. Anything that's there will remain as long as the city's okay with it, but we're fine with that. We've also designed our entrance features. Designed our fence and wall consistent with the Roscoe Turner entrance, the Sanctuary entrance, using the same brick and stucco pattern, so that's the idea. We've done everything we can. And again, of course, staff has recommended approval. Now, I think, one of the things I've always looked at is what's the options in a case like this? And so in our case, this is a request for a special exception with conditions, of course, but what you're going to be looking at is what are the other options that are existing. This is not something in which we're taking an ag use or any other use and changing it to this. This is a site that's already zoned for commercial, for community commercial. And the community commercial will allow, of course, things like communication towers, shopping centers, high-traffic offices, such as medical offices, restaurants, and convenience stores. All those are things that can be on there. And so when I'm looking at this, and I will tell you right now, my client has already bought the property, so it's not a matter of making it contingent upon the contract. We bought the property. It will be something. I know that some folks had hoped that this might be a park. It's only going to be a park if they want to buy it and they want to take it to you and ask for it to be a park. But that's not going to happen, I don't believe. Our traffic impact report, I thought, was fascinating. If you look at it, you know, based on our design for a typical shopping center site on this location, with the accesses that we'd be allowed by the county, it came to 4,155 trips per day, based on those uses. Based on our use, it came to 244 trips for the mini warehouses. That's because if you think about it, a mini warehouse site really doesn't generate very much traffic. People put their things in there. They rarely come back to I don't want to say check on them, but to get things out. It's there for a purpose. It's storage. We're coming there, we're storing something, and we're leaving. And generally, you just don't have that much traffic. And it's one of the real advantages of a site like this. Now, I should point out also, you know, we've seen some mini warehouses where you allow people to function in those mini warehouses, you know, little offices or little auto shops and things like this. That doesn't take place here. It doesn't take place, A, because it's Port Orange, but it doesn't take place because the owner will not allow it and would never allow it. He has 4 other facilities. He has never allowed that and would not allow it. Insurance purposes and everything else. This is true mini warehouse and true storage. We listened to the concerns of the neighbors, and I wanted to go into those a little bit. Again, this isn't, you know, it's always difficult when you're starting with a site that has never been developed. You know, it's more difficult because people get used to looking at that. But it's going to be something, and that's sometimes the first hurdle to overcome. What is it going to be? How do we deal with it? How do we minimize the impact of the existing neighborhoods? So their first concern was crime and noise and pollution. On the noise issue, again, I have to measure this not against what's there now, which are cursor trees, but against what's going to be there at some point as a permitted use. The permitted use for a mini warehouse facility is absolutely minimum as far as noise. Again, typically you have a manager there during the day between, I think it's 8 to 6, is that correct? Correct. That's when you're going to have any real activity, but generally you have absolutely no noise with these facilities because of the minimum number of traffic and because of what you're doing, and because, of course, you're also enclosed in this area, and then on top of that having buffers. So it's far fewer people on the site at any one time, obviously far fewer cars on this site. There's approximately 200 feet between the nearest home and the site, and the city will receive a conservation easement over the wetlands. Now, crime. Now, this is sort of an interesting issue. First of all, again, with all the mini warehouses that my client has owned, he has had no incidents in 18 years, which is a pretty good record. But there's a reason for that, if you think about it. The reason for it is because the whole purpose of mini warehouse storage is to have a secure place for your stuff. So security is paramount to this use, especially if it's done properly. And so you have, obviously, besides the manager, you have rows of cameras, you have fences, you have gates, etc. You have everything possible to ensure there would be no crime or issues on this site. And those cameras, by the way, feed directly into both the office, and we have cameras all over the site, but office and to other locations. So that solves the problem. It has in the past, It will continue to do so in the future with technology. Again, this is quiet technology. Cameras there, so no one hears it, no one notices it, but the fact is it discourages and prevents any issues as far as security. Visual impact. I did want to show some of the visual impact issues. First of all, although we're only putting the fence and the storage facility one story, that will in fact prevent any actual visual impact from someone standing outside. And this shows that the basis for that. It's because of the angle. Because when you're looking at that angle, all you see is above that area, and there's nothing that you can see above that. At the same time, I should point out that on the west side in particular, next to the residential area, you have incredibly dense vegetation that is being maintained. It will be maintained, like I say, partially in a conservation easement, but also with the setbacks. This is showing a picture from the closest building that will be to that line, looking out. And you'll see in these things right here, I've brought pictures of it. You can pass it around. You'll see where those pictures were taken. I'm sorry, I'll get back to the microphone. You'll see where those pictures are taken from, and like I said, that's where the building line is, and you'll see what you're going to see out from there, which of course shows you what you're going to see into it. That's the nice advantage of having a site with lots of vegetation on it, and it will in fact be a great buffer for anything that's there. Now, one of the things I always have to do is to balance how this will work. What are the permitted uses that we're looking at? And so in this case, we actually have a plan consistent with the city's land development code and consistent with the existing permitted uses that shows how the retail shopping center could in fact be placed on this site. So, and one of the things that I have found is, yes, I don't have a problem with obviously shopping centers. I think they're a good thing. You see shopping centers near subdivisions oftentimes with some buffers between them. But you will notice the shopping center far more than you would ever notice a mini warehouse. In fact, I wanted to show you some elevations that we prepared. I'm sorry, including you guys.
You're fine.
But you did have copies for the
I have copies. Yes. Really good.
I thought you asked him if he had coffee. I was about to get excited.
Yeah. Careful, he might send somebody out for it.
Thank you, sir.
This shows, and I appreciate this because it just shows the professionalism of my client in this case. It shows how this thing will look from the street level. And again, what we've tried to do is we've tried to incorporate the entrance feature for the sanctuary as to how this will all look, how it ties in together. You see what it looks like from the street along 415. You see, I'm sorry, not 415, along Airport and along Williamson. And you see the entrance itself to it, which of course is, in my way of thinking, fairly minimal when it comes to a commercial operation in this case. And compared to and we all know what a shopping center looks like. You do not have fences along the frontage. You do not have walls along the frontage. You may have other issues that you're going to have to deal with, but it's all land development code, and that's all you get. One of the things I always want to encourage is investment in the area, especially investment in Port Orange, because when you have commercial investment, then you also have a tax base that you're building up that allows the city to continue on and allows the taxes for the residential to be maintained at a lower level. And so in this particular case, You have the build-out on this will be, I said $8 to $10 million. My client informs me it'll be at least $10 million build-out. A $10 million build-out, besides the 50 construction jobs it creates and the 6 full-time employees, it will create approximately $217,000 in ad valorem taxes. That's from this one structure, or from this one facility. And again, it is a low-impact facility, so all I see is good things. I think you can tell that it's also solving a need. When you have this many residences in an area, you have a need for people to place some things. As I've gotten older and I start looking at going to a smaller house, now that the kids are gone, I'm thinking, where am I going to put this stuff? And so all of a sudden I started investigating the same thing. So there is a need for this. And I will also tell you, of course, that as you know, the client has a very good history in how to do this the right way and has done this in the right way every time past. These are some of the concerns that Joey and everyone addressed last time. The lighting will not leave the property. The landscaping will include as much vegetation as possible. 75% wetland easement. No access through Roscoe Turner Trail. We're going to provide that as part of the. I'm making that assurance to you that we're providing that as part of the site plan. The buildings enclosed in the facility are limited to 1 story. All fencing and walls will be as high as permitted by the city LDC. Stucco walling along the frontage will include brick as shown in the renderings. The renderings are what we're going to be basing this on, and I put that as part of the record. No vehicle servicing or washing on site, no work vehicle on site. In addition, based on our conversations, I also want to put in there that we're going to preserve the vegetation along Roscoe Turner to the extent permitted by the city. We're going to add a deceleration lane on southbound Williamson Boulevard. As you see in the special exception, there'll be no other commercial uses permitted, therefore no other traffic impacts to the site. This will be the only thing permitted on this approximately 10-acre site, and that the business hours, I'm making the representation, will be no more than 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. But I've got to tell you, like I say, our manager is going to be open only 8 to 6. So, in conclusion, I wanted to clarify, of course, that we've met all the LDC requirements, and that I'm sure we discussed this last time. A special exception is basically a permitted use as long as you meet the conditions for that special exception. We have clearly met those conditions. The staff has indicated we've met the conditions. I think we've gone above and beyond meeting those conditions and making sure that this is something that is consistent with the neighborhood and consistent with the city's high standards. We have a staff report recommending approval. We've listened to the concerns of the neighborhood and tried to address every single one of them, and that this is the absolute lowest trip generator and lowest impact for this entire area. Other than that, we have our engineer and we have the owner here. Any questions you have, we're ready to answer.
What about the traffic? I didn't hear anything about the county.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did, but let me show you.
That was in the beginning.
Yeah, it was in the beginning. For instance, on this site here, when you're looking at noise, it shows the site plan. The site plan will allow these two.
We can't see what you're pointing at.
I'm sorry.
Use your mouse.
The 2 entrances.
There we go. Use my mouse.
There you go.
There we go. These entrances here, and here.
Okay.
And again, so we've already reviewed this with the county. Everyone's on board with this, but I'll tell you they are especially on board with it because of the low traffic generation that this use has.
One of the things, Glenn, I agree with you on the traffic part of it. It's the least impact in that area, and that's the big thing for me, especially with Woodhaven coming up the pike and Water's Edge growing the way they are now. The one thing I do have, it's the southern entrance and exit, which I really have an issue with, turning left into that, heading north, turning left into that property. I mean, you're at a red light. You've got people, you have a double lane, you have people trying to turn in there. So, I mean, to me, it's a dangerous thing. Somebody trying to, like, Bill brought up before, somebody, pulling a 40-foot truck with a dually, trying to turn in there and not being able to go fast enough. And, you got almost a blind curve coming around that curve. Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, but Roger, can you come up? We reviewed all of that with the traffic engineer. And, obviously, sometimes there are,
I mean, you gotta look at real life.
you got to look at real life, that's right.
The traffic engineer isn't driving that route, I can
Yeah.
guarantee you.
I mean, you guys
correct.
drive that all the
Yeah,
time.
every day.
One of the things I'm looking at, though, is the fact that if I can lower the traffic generation for that site enormously, which this is
Oh, yeah.
1/20th of what it could be,
I'm not in disagreement with that.
I think we're able to get that. Now,
But-
go ahead and talk about the
But
one question.
I'm not in disagreement with that at all. What I'm talking about is that you're going to have an increased traffic out there, even with the extension out to Pioneer Trail, with Woodhaven coming between 1,000, 1,400 homes, Water's Edge growing, and all those properties that we have out there. So you're going to have an increased, I mean, the generation of you guys are going to be very minimal, obviously, because those properties are going to bring a lot more traffic than what this will bring. And I'm not against that. What I'm saying is just that left turn in.
Right.
Because we brought this up the last time, an acceleration lane and a decel lane.
I think we agreed to the decel lane.
Right, so you did say.
Okay, we've added that to this.
But it's just that the southern end, entrance and exit around the pond.
Roger?
Roger Stercola, 265 Kenilworth Avenue, Ormond Beach, owner of Upham Inc. Engineers. We had a lengthy meeting with Volusia County Traffic Engineer and Land Development Services, provided them the information on this site plan, and the questions that came out at the meeting was, looking at turning movements. So the site plan that you have on the one slide, you want to get back to that?
Back. This one.
One more, yeah. So the driveway location to the north, we originally had that a little further north. The county wanted to see that further south so we can provide sufficient right turn lane into the property. So that driveway location was good. It's a right-in, right-out driveway. The county also looked at the southerly driveway off of Airport Road, and, based on the county's requirements, that driveway is back far enough from the intersection Airport Road to allow a left turn in, right-out location. Again, we're subject to Volusia County permitting requirements.
Okay.
So we're abiding by the code by the county, and the county is telling us this is an acceptable location for a left-in traffic movement.
But it's still real life. I mean, I think in our city codes, I believe we have to have it, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, was it like 200 feet away from an intersection? You can't have an entrance or exit for, well, I know this is for malls. We had an issue coming before, like from Dunlop and Innova. What is the distance between?
We have distance requirements in our code,
Why,
and these basically.
They trump it,
Yeah, the proposal where these are, they meet their distance requirements in our code too.
Really?
But then basically, like they said, the ultimate say in those go back to, Volusia County since it's their roadway then.
I get
Do the
that.
red marks on that diagram mean anything? The red?
No, those red marks are actually a vehicle. So we simulated a large vehicle, like a WB 43 or motor coach, a large, like a Prevost type motor coach, and we also simulated a truck with a large boat trailer.
So you're representing all these vehicles doing U-turns, one there at Roscoe Turner and one at Airport.
Well, Roscoe Turner is not necessary if you're going north on Williamson Boulevard. You can actually turn left at the light at Airport Road and go in that driveway. I just show that to demonstrate that a vehicle can actually make that 180-degree turn at Roscoe Turner.
That's the reason for the left turn in.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest problems, and I agree with Mike on the entrances, but the other entrance bothers me as well, and I'm not sure there's a good solution, but you're going to have people pulling out of the storage the same time you're going to have people pulling out of the sanctuary, and I can tell you already, there's already tons of accidents there without that. So that's a huge concern for me. Plus, you're talking school hours. There's a lot going on that corner.
And I will tell you, part of the problem is you're entitled to access to your property. And I don't think that, and from what we've heard from the neighbors, they did not want the access off of Roscoe Turner.
Yeah,
Correct.
We brought that up
So,
last time.
right. And so, logically, the safer way to do it would be come off of Roscoe Turner.
I agree.
Come in there.
And I understand why they don't want it,
Right.
but I agree. I do think that would be safer.
But you are entitled to access your property, especially with the zoning that's on there now. And what's interesting to me is when we were looking at this with the county, even if this was commercial, a shopping center, I'd still have the same access points based on what we're
Yeah,
talking
there's
about.
no good access
Well,
point there.
Well, but you're not towing a 2-ton, 3-ton, 4-ton boat or whatever. But I agree with.
More vehicles.
Yeah.
But
But it is a lot. Yeah, I get it.
And
It's
you're
a lot
right,
more
but let's face it. I mean, the minimum number of times when you would have that happening? And
I get it.
And even if you're in a shopping center, you can still have somebody towing a boat in.
Yeah, definitely not the use I would like to see there.
Or a gas station or something else, right?
Everybody's got to get gas.
Okay, so my next question coming out where Mike was talking about on Airport Road, if they come out, let's say they're going to the beach, and they turn right, they're gonna have to either find some place to U-turn, which again is gonna be a problem, or go all the way around down to Tomoka and back down to Dunlawton. There's no way for them to get left.
Well, what they can do is
There's no way for them to turn left out of
they
the
can
other
come
entrance
out
as
the
well.
exit onto Williamson Boulevard, go to the traffic light and do a U-turn there and go
It's a
back.
lot of U-turning going around.
That's what the county wants, and this is the direction that both the county and DOT are going today.
It's deja vu all over.
It really is. It really is.
And I will tell you, I mean, don't forget, things are
It's
changing.
not their fault, but.
No, it's not. And again, that's what I'm saying. We're entitled to use the property. The interesting thing is when you look at where people may be going, if they're going to the beach, they're probably going to be going to New Smyrna Beach at this point. Because this road now takes them directly down to Williamson to Pioneer Trail and then over to the beach. And now we're in the process of working on the extension of Pioneer Trail to 44. Not Pioneer Trail, Williamson. From
It
Pioneer Trail.
already is.
No,
to Williamson.
You mean to 44?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, to 44.
Yeah, that's been on the
Williamson
books
goes
for 10
to
years.
Pioneer Trail now. And now we're in the process of working on that right away to get the next section. So you're going to have that connection.
You know, one of the key points here is that the low impact of this facility relative to a gas or a convenience store, gas station,
Restaurants.
a McDonald's.
Right.
You know, you're going to have the same issues with any of those, magnified many times. I just, as an option, you know, this seems to be one of the better ones, but, you know, there's problems with it, there's no question.
We've done our best to mitigate every problem we can.
Is this actually what it's going to look like?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, and I'll put that in the record as part of what we're talking about.
And I give you guys mad props. I mean, I totally think you guys have done a great job going back, talking to the people you needed to talk to, resolving the questions and concerns that we've had. Honestly, I don't think anything there is going to be a good fit, but this,
the traffic-
if something's going to be there, this might be the best option there is.
Traffic problem doesn't go away, it can only be worse.
Right, exactly.
And again, that's what I've got to clearly indicate. Something is going to be there. You know, I heard people last time say that we'd like to have this as a park. You know, or they've asked the planning department, how can we have this rezoned as a park?
Unless we pay for it.
Unless you pay for it. That's right. You can't do that. It's existing zoning, and every other use on this site is going to have far more impact for this corner and for these neighborhoods. And that's why I was actually very pleased at how hard he has worked to minimize those impacts. So that's sometimes things I look at when I'm looking.
Newton, are we out of order here?
Really don't have
Totally.
to bring.
You bouncing around? Are you letting people talk from one end to the other? Because I've been very quiet down here.
Do you want to turn, John?
I don't know. Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Certainly.
Okay. I was the one that raised a lot of questions because there were a lot of unanswered questions last week. My parents live in Cypress Head. So I have two authorities to answer to. Your rendering blends very well with the sanctuary. So to me, that's showing an effective direction that you're trying to blend the two together. And this was very important to me in the beginning, how you're driving by, the visual, and it's blended in where, I mean, with the vegetation and that, it's going to be hard to even notice the structure there when you're driving. The vegetation buffers in the residential areas. You were very detailed showing us that basically you're not even going to see the fence. You're going to see the vegetation buffer from the residential area. It's now one story. You were showing us 3-story buildings last month. So we were seeing a visual with a height that was very confusing to me. And now you brought it down and confirmed it's 1 story, and now my visual has been confirmed as well as my traffic pattern. As a builder, it's weird how people have perceptions of what they want and what the city tells them to do and the county tells them to do. So when I'm building a house and I have to build a new house in an old neighborhood and the city and the county says, well, you have to bring it up to a flood zone X, which is 12 inches above the crown of the road, and then the two houses are below the road, and also I'm bringing this fill in, and this house is like 20 feet higher than the house to the north and south, people get mad, but those are the rules. Those are the things. Now, you spoke with the county. This is what they approved. The city concurs with the traffic pattern. As far as an investor that's bought a piece of property and has options, he's jumped through all my hoops to make this presentation. The aesthetics, how he's working, the traffic impact, again, you got the schools there, but it is a low impact. I mean, it is much lower than a gas station, Cumberland Farms, 7-Eleven. So the traffic is going to be minimum, and the numbers show that. So as far as I see, I'm content with what has been presented to me based on my concerns for last month.
I appreciate that, and I will tell you that I understand your concerns from last time because there were still some unanswered questions. We've worked hard to answer those, and I think that the elevations that we've shown now really make a difference because the other one was based on one of his other projects.
We didn't get these traffic studies in our packet, so I guess they were being generated while the packet was being...
That's correct. They were not done before the previous hearing.
Okay.
We will have them to you if you don't have them already.
All right. Thank you. I'm done, Newton.
Is anything,
But like I brought up before, there's so many things that could, all the accepted uses right now that could be on that property without any input from this community, from our council, and from the input from the community, other than what any kind of developer who wanted to take that property and do it with would have, and that's up to them. So, I think it's great that we have this forum in order for everybody to air their grievances and talk about working together, because going forward, this property is going to have something on it. So whether it's a storage facility, a shopping mall, a gas station, something's going to be there.
Glenn, could you start these around the room so people can see?
Yeah, let them see that.
This one actually is probably the most beneficial to them.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
And also,
This one is,
we
they're
mentioned
really
that
gonna
you guys
wanna
got
see.
rid of the retail shops, so that even lowers the traffic impact as well.
Can I go? Okay,
Does he want you want to, I've seen it already. Give everybody the idea so they can see the visuals of what this is going to look like.
And again, I want to make sure that we
Just some more, Glenn.
I just wanted to, like I said a minute ago, I'm totally impressed with what you guys have done as far as...
Hey, Newton.
Yeah, come on.
And again, I want to make clear that
Kind of keep it quiet.
Yeah.
Noisy room.
I do want to make it clear that, like I say, what we have presented to you is what we're going to provide. That's what's going to be part of this. If you want to make that a condition, I have no objection to it.
I really think you guys have really done your homework. You're never going to make everybody happy, obviously. In a perfect world, it would be a park. I would love that. But I'm very impressed by the presentation you guys have done, and you've done your homework, and you've really tried to, despite how hard it is, appease everybody. Most of my concern, I obviously still have concerns with the entrance, but most of my concerns have pretty much been answered. I do have a question that Tim might answer. Do they need that stormwater pond with the pond in the front?
Yes.
They do need both?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wetlands right there.
Yes, they do.
And the pond in the front is taken care of by the county, am I correct?
It's storm drainage for the roads.
For the roads.
On the property, it's maintained by the county, and that's for the roadway.
It's specifically for the roadway. So they can't use it for their own
They spoke
storm.
to them about, they told them that they have their own stormwater pond, which is the one that's on that south corner then.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Hold it down, people, please. Bo, you have anything?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the boat spaces on the property. How many actual spaces will we have for the boats, and what size will they be?
Listed approximately 100 in here.
We're showing 100 internal to the property.
For boats?
Yes.
Okay. And they're all same size? Or?
Yeah.
All right.
Boats and RVs combined, right? That's what I thought, yeah. Okay, not just specifically boats.
We're not biased against it.
Boat with an RV.
Yes.
Mike?
I'm good.
Anything else?
Nope.
Tom?
No, sir, I'm good, thank you.
I have to say, you really listened last month before you came back this month. I'm very pleased to see that everything that the citizens and the commission asked for was addressed. And I would like to reiterate what I said at the last meeting, that without any zoning change, without any permission from this commission or the city council, you could have a communication tower or antenna there. You could have clubs, lodges, and fraternal organizations, convenience store or stores with or without fuel pumps. You could have another large health club there, a gas station, any number of restaurants with or without drive-throughs, and any number of retail stores. A 12-acre site would support another small supermarket or anything that would be having early morning deliveries and open at night. Potentially things would be open 24 hours a day. A CVS, Walgreens-sized store could be on that same site. All allowed under the current zoning. So I absolutely believe that this is the least impactful thing that could be possibly put on there. And I would imagine that a park, particularly if it had a walking trail or anything that people would come to, would probably generate more traffic than a storage facility. So I really have to say that I think these people have done their homework and they're trying to do the best that they can for the city of Port Orange and their neighbors. And unless you have something to...
I did want to point out one more thing, and that is, all those uses you talked about, I mean, I don't know what uses it would be. It's going to be something, but it's going to be based on the market. Whatever the market says can go there. Whatever he can build or sell this for, that's what would go there, based on the market. So I don't know what that would be. I can't give you that assurance that it would be one of those things, but I can guarantee it, as time goes on and more traffic goes up and down Williamson, you're going to see a demand.
And with that, I want to go ahead and open it up to public comment. There is a 3-minute per person time limit. You will see the timer in front of you, and there is a lighting device there that will start flashing a yellow light at a minute out, and at 3 minutes we'll ask you to stop.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're supposed to make a motion first.
Well, we can or we can't. Would you like to make a motion at this time? Good.
I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 17-700000002.
Second.
Motion and second. Yes, sir. Come on. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Bob Hiller. I live in the sanctuary. Aside from the sales pitch we just heard, one thing you did not mention, you could put a professional building there, 1 story. That was not on the list, but it also is a consideration. I think a lot of people rather see that than what we're seeing now, which should be in a low industrial area as far as I'm concerned. We shouldn't have that there between 2 middle-income residents. A couple of comments I do have. One, the 10-foot buffer, Roscoe, I don't think that's enough. I think 20-foot would be better. And it should be not a transparent fence. It should be either stone, brick, or something like that. At least 6 foot. Traffic, I don't think, the investigation was done on traffic. Look at all the new residents, new developments that are coming on board. I mean, come on. The traffic right now in Roscoe Turner, for me to get out on the street between 6 and 8 or 4 and 6, I got to wait sometimes as much as 3 to 4 minutes. Okay? The traffic's already there. And to say there would be very little traffic from a storage area and vehicle maintenance, which I don't believe should be there at all. You have people changing oil, where's that oil going to go? It's going to go in the wetlands unless you have restrictions. Who knows what's being stored in these facilities? Explosives? Drugs? We could have a problem, guys, and I'll tell you, it has an impact on values, home values. I don't see anything addressed about home values, the impact on home values. I wouldn't want a storage, I live in a sanctuary, but I wouldn't have bought there if I knew there was a storage area next to it. Very simple. Trucks. I presume you don't mean tractor trailers. I assume that. It doesn't say that, but I assume that's the case. It should be covered. Vehicle servicing, I don't think we should have it. There's enough service units, facilities outside that location. People get their trucks and whatever serviced. The value, home values is the biggest problem I have, because I know it's going to have an impact on home values, and I don't think that's been addressed. I think your traffic analysis doesn't include all the future developments and the excess on Williamson. It doesn't. And to say that there's going to be minimum input, output from that facility, storage facility, who's going to store their vehicles there? I'll tell you who. Tree trimmers, maintenance guys. Okay? They're out 7 in the morning, back at 4.
Thank you.
That's more than a couple.
Try and get these items addressed for you at the end.
Well, we actually covered those the last meeting, and those are things that are not going to be used. Fleet services are not allowed on that property, and neither is maintenance.
We'll see.
Good afternoon. Warren Clem, 1325 Osprey Nest Lane, also HOA president for Sanctuary. We did meet with the developer, and I guess from our standpoint, we're somewhat resigned to what, I mean, you can't stop progress. The zoning is what the zoning is. Any amount of buffering, the larger the better. But what I did notice, just exactly what I thought on the last one, now at least the county has agreed to it, or shown it, acknowledged it, those U-turns. You go on Dunlawton, people can't turn their car in 3 lanes and make a U-turn. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch someone either do it with a RV or a boat on a dually. So very self-serving. The intersection at Roscoe Turner and Williamson, which is my intersection, that's going to be very difficult getting out. So there's an added impact. I don't know if the city can do anything about that. That's a county issue, but I think it needs to be addressed at the same time.
City could push for a light there. They did Crane Lakes.
Yeah, we have tried at one. Yeah, many years ago we tried that.
Crane Lakes
County
took a
shot
long
us
time.
down, but it would certainly help us.
Should give us a light. Part of the deal.
Alan was even talking about it.
I'm Pat Greenfield. I live in the sanctuary. I would like to request a formal future study of projected traffic from all the new subdivisions that are planned today, that we know about today, going toward Taylor Road or Dunlawton eventually. All of that traffic is going to be coming. We can't get out of our sub now, as Wayne said, and many other people will attest. You can't turn left there. You've got schools where the kids walk. All those kids, it's a walking school. They're elementary. They walk around the corner all the way to Sanctuary. They come all the way around to Sable Creek. They're walking or riding their bicycles or their scooters. You need to take a look at that. You need to roll that into your impact study, because it's going to have a major impact. You have where a sign says, "Do not block crosswalk," so the kids can cross it. You can't see past the VIP pet sign that was approved by the county unless you pull out past the crosswalk. You can't see what's coming. But this traffic study needs to be done. The future study, not this current number of vehicles that you found with a clicker on the road. And the traffic coming from that way, not from Airport Road, because that isn't the problem. The problem is going south. That's the big impact. We have no turnoff. I cringe every time I drive into my sub. But the main thing is there should be absolutely no left turn at this planned site. No left turn, even if they had opened up that divider and let them turn left. They can't even get up speed enough. They're going 65 down there, guys. We see all the traffic studies going north. You never see that sign turned around facing how fast is traffic coming south. They're going 65 mile an hour. Trust me. They passed me and I'm going 45 to 50. They pass me like I'm sitting still. They're going like an interstate. So the traffic speed, the traffic amount, and the kids, you guys need to roll that into your study, because I don't see anything in any of the paperwork that I printed off that you published that addresses any of that. Future, not present. Future, because the future is also going to be them rolled in. That's future development. And the last thing is, a light there would help, but we've always asked for a light. It's only going to get worse. A light anywhere along from Taylor to Airport would help, because when school's out, there's no stopping them. That's all I have. Thank you.
Scares me every time.
Hello, my name is Andrew Norman. I live in the sanctuary at 6106 Jasmine Vine Drive. I'll also be reading something from Jerry Kilmore, who's a neighbor across the street from me. And I'll address Jerry's issues first. First off, under the new plan, you're moving the facility north to Roscoe Turner, which eliminates 10-foot, or only gives us a 10-foot buffer. Again, that's been addressed already. We'd appreciate any additional buffer that we can get from that. That's a sensitive area for us. The facility will adversely affect joining properties from a public safety issue. The traffic will increase exponentially when the rest of Williamson and Venetian Bay housing plans are completed, not to mention Park Place Phase 2. The property values will be affected. We've addressed that once already. My personal opinion on property values is I purchased my house in 2007, height of the market. My property is still $60,000 below what I purchased my property at. Okay, it's 10 years later. I have not seen an increase in my property value, actually decrease. And this is going to be a concern for our whole area as far as increasing our property values moving forward. So a study with that, a study above that moving forward would be effective and helpful. Noise and light pollution increased at 24-hour facility. The issue is, I know they're saying that the people will be managing there, but will other people have access to the facility after hours, 24 hours a day? I believe that's probably a yes. In most circumstances, in most facilities like that, you have access to those facilities 24 hours a day. So that would be a concern in a residential area. Children walking to and from schools, we've addressed that as well. Signage for the business will detract from the suburban setting. Signage, as we saw, they've done a nice job. We appreciate them making an effort to coincide with the sanctuary's brick housing or brick facades. However, it's still signage that's going to detract from our areas, from a business area. And I know that the council has mentioned that we're going to have something there from a corporate standpoint regardless, but one of the issues is that in this area, from a business perspective, 1,000-foot office space is extremely hard to come by. And we also have storage facilities at the bottom of the hill of Williamson right now, and you can verify that those are all full, and those have limited availability as well. So a low-use office building space would be an option to be considered as well for a professional facility. So once approved, there will be no turning back. This is a mistake for us. Residents will be affected. Please vote no. Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Buella, family of 4 resident. I say that traffic is my main concern. I'm not going to go through it all, you know it. I have a couple of details, and just one for the record, because it 2.5 times 1,000 square feet per 1,000 square feet doesn't mean a lot to us, so I did the quick calculation. Thank you, Google. An acre has about 43,500 square feet, given the benefit of doubt. That's 75 to 100 vehicles per day, using their statistics that are in here. So just as a quick fact. I also went out and did quite a few measurements and using some of the standards that are in the area for the deceleration lanes. They measure out, round numbers again, 1,000 feet from the start of the lane till the end. If you then walk that off from Roscoe Turner to 1,000 feet, it's almost exactly at where the retention pond that's there existing. My understanding, they have to enter before that. So a deceleration lane, should there be required one, would have to start at Roscoe Turner. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. On the other end, on the airport, same issue, that if there is a deceleration lane, if you go out there, it's going to have to start where the retention pond is, the sidewalks there. Operational issue for pedestrians in particular there. The sidewalk disappears, and you're then going to be encroaching somewhat, most probably put some type of retention wall or something in there so that you're not encroaching upon the existing retention pond. So the sidewalk goes away. I'm assuming that there would have to be a decel lane, and I won't go into the details if that's on a curve and sight distances and all of that. That's for the traffic engineers. I would just like to say that I think you'd make quite a few friends here. I think we've somewhat, as the gentleman said, resigned to the fact that there's going to be something there. This sounds like the most likely at this time, but I think you'd make quite a few friends amongst us if there was a more detailed traffic analysis that spoke to some of our issues, just so that we know, that it was done and that we can see the facts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Come on.
My name is Sarah Jones, 44 Woodfield Drive. I don't live in either Cypress Knolls or the Sanctuary. I actually live down in Ravenwood, which is, on the scale of things, not such an exclusive neighborhood. But it may be within your city codes, but I find it absolutely crazy that you would have coded such a thing, that you would build two high-level neighborhoods where people pay a higher property tax because of the, for lack of a better word, exclusive area. And then you build these neighborhoods, you build these developments, people are paying the high taxes, and then you plunk a rental place, a storage space right in front of them. It just takes the property values down, and it's a crazy way to develop a city, to build prime real estate and then devalue it. And I just think it doesn't make any sense. It may be legal, but it does not help the city at all. And if there's any way out of it, you ought to try to find it. Thank you.
We try not and applaud, we try not and boo.
A little decorum.
My name is Rick Wallace, 6087 Sanctuary Garden Boulevard. This property was deemed commercial 23 years ago. Things have changed. We've got the houses, we've got the schools. Have we done any study about the possibility of doing an eminent domain on this piece of property?
It's only for bridges or roads.
What?
Eminent domain is only for bridges or roads.
No, eminent domain can be for land too.
If it's used for bridges or roads.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's
okay.
Yeah.
Things do change. So my question is now, can we do something to affect where we can change the zoning of this? Because 23 years, a lot of things have changed. You got 2 schools, you got the 1,000 different residents in the surrounding areas. Have we looked at anything else, or we just resign? Why is it that we have to say, this is better than this? Having my hand cut off is better than losing a finger. Why can't we do something? Is there any thoughts, or we resign to this?
There's private property rights.
Okay.
The property was zoned 23 years ago at about probably the same time as Cypress Head was put in about 22, 23 years ago. So probably about the same time that was all zoned, that this part was set aside. has what is now community commercial that would allow many other uses, all of which are commercial.
Well, the question is that we have a property in back of Sanctuary called the Russell property. What did the city do to preserve that piece of property?
As far as I know, as far as I know the history of the Russell property, it was given to the city in an estate and set to be preserved as park, and it has no other use available.
Similar to Croatchen.
Yeah, it's donated.
Just donated, okay. Now, the property that we're discussing right now, a couple other questions I have is, are we going to allow any semi-trucks or any other commercial vehicles in there?
No.
No.
They've already said no.
They've already said
no fleet services, no changing oil and all that stuff.
No changing oil, no.
And they already own this property, so.
I understand
So
that.
there's.
My next thing is that I got some pictures here of a place in Apopka that also has recreation vehicles and also RVs, and they have an 8-foot wall. And as you can see from those pictures, you can still see those items from the street.
You're going to have a vegetation barrier in the back. That's affecting the residential.
It's going to be a 10-foot.
Yeah, you're not going to see it from the neighborhood.
Yeah,
in
we're
the
allowed
front.
10-foot in Port Orange.
So what you're stating is that we're not going to be able to see any of those RVs or any of those boats from the
Not
street?
the residents in the back.
How about from the street?
Well, you can look at the picture right there. It's going to show you the fencing that's going up there. And it blends in with the sanctuary fencing, too. It's all brick-faced, and it will be concealing a lot of the stuff they have back there.
Now, the guy has done a very, very good job as far as, trying to please everybody. There's no argument about it. But I still find it very hard to believe that as a city that we do not have any control on something that we made a decision 23 years ago. You're trying to tell me there's nothing legally that we can do to preserve that area? You're our assistant city attorney, isn't it?
It's private property. So, I mean, they're private property rights, so, I mean.
Now, do properties get rezoned?
They tried that in Ponce Inlet, and they got sued by the city.
Yeah, big time.
Okay? So,
We're not going down that road.
and I think the city lost.
Okay, thank you.
Still losing. Yeah.
Still losing.
It's still going on.
Yeah.
$3 million something.
Newton, don't forget to push that button.
I don't have the button.
Yeah, it's new down here.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you with that one.
It'll be a long
Yes,
day.
sir.
Hi, my name is Bob Kappenberg. I live in the Sanctuary, and I was born and raised and grew up on Long Island. And I was a volunteer fireman for many years on Long Island. And we got called to one of these storage facilities one evening. There was smoke coming out of one of the units. We popped the lock, nothing. We went to the next unit, popped it where some smoke was coming out, and it exploded. 9 firemen went in the hospital. You had a furniture store storing shellac, varnish, paints, and upholstery in there. You just don't know what's going in these units. I go to the HOA office for Sanctuary, and when I drive around, there's that other facility up there. I see a fella mixing 5-gallon paint cans and everything. You wonder, what the hell is he doing in there? Is he making bombs? Is he going to be making paint to paint the house? There's too many chemicals, and in today's world, I'm sorry, but I'm not politically correct, but maybe you have Abdul out there saying, hey, I want to blow up Disney World and I'll store some chemicals over here in Port Orange off the beaten path. I mean, these units are all nice and pretty, but you don't know what's in these units, and it can be dangerous to the environment in many different ways, and that's just how I feel about this unit being here. And if this was such a desirable piece of property, I'm sure we would have had a bank up there or a drugstore a long time ago. I mean, for this piece of property to be vacant for so long, I mean, I just think it's a lemon, and you people are looking at it, oh, good, we can get a few more bucks for the city here by putting something up in it. That's how I feel about it, and I just want to thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
We need to wrap this up.
Peter Haraka, resident at Sable Creek and the Sable Creek HOA president. I've listened to all these people, and there's a lot of legitimate concerns. But what I see is that we'd all like it to remain rural farmland and God's green earth, but realistically, that's not going to happen. So the least impactful is exactly what you're saying would be this storage warehouse. This gentleman has addressed all the issues concerning Sable Creek residents. We've had some serious concerns. He's been gracious, addressed them all. We see no issues for the majority of the people with, going forward. And he has done basically what trust but verify. He's verifying what his words are. So as long as that happens, I see no issue with the storage warehouse being there. Would we prefer it to remain as it is? Absolutely. But realistically, that's not going to happen. And what could happen is far more severe. In fact, the housing that's being built is far more severe as far as the trip traffic is concerned. It's really serious that we get, some information that would give us the right to have a traffic light at Sable Creek and Cypress Head, and also Sanctuary deserves a traffic light. Absolutely needed. Regardless of this warehouse or anything else that goes there, right now with the traffic that's going to come from the housing, there's going to be some serious wrecks there, and there have been already. So that's something that the county and the city need to look at. But I think this is something that eventually is going to get developed into something that would be far, or even I've listened to professional buildings, doctors and attorneys and dermatologists have much more traffic than this would. So unless we can do nothing, this is the best thing to do. And like I say, he's been very forthcoming. We've had a lot of concerns, and he's addressed them and put them in writing. So unless that changes, we see no issues with that. But please take a serious look at traffic lights at both of those locations, because they're needed regardless of this happening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Hi there. John Bogdanoff from the Sanctuary. A couple of points about the traffic. We did, at the Sanctuary recently, back in March, ask for the county traffic engineer to conduct a study of the traffic on Williamson, and we were told that they couldn't do that until at least after August. So, there is a serious problem there. We've had injuries resulting from accidents at the Sanctuary Roscoe Turner exit, but the county engineers told us they can't even look at it until after August.
The budget.
Another issue is, and I think you've kind of picked up on this, we're not only talking about the quantity of traffic, we're talking about the quality of the traffic. The quality of the traffic in this instance consists of, as you noted, the boats being towed, moving trucks that are going to be moving things. People put things in storage when they're moving. Large motorhomes. So we're also talking about the quality of the traffic, which is going to be much more severe than if, say, it was a bank or if it was a professional office center or something like that. So right now we've got a serious problem there. This will only exacerbate that problem. One additional point is, again, the incompatibility with the existing uses. We have two relatively upscale developments. We are now being told that this is the best use of this property. Well, we don't agree with that. We think there are other uses that would be less invasive and more compatible with the two developments, residential developments that are there right now. But we also feel that the presentation that was made, which was very comprehensive, some of the pictures that were attached to the staff report show current developments of these types. This is attached to your staff report. The Acorn properties in Boca Raton and Palm Coast. As you can see, neither of those are nestled in, amongst two upscale subdivisions. At the last meeting, there was a talk about one of these developments that went in down in Lantana, Florida, and I believe we saw pictures of it, which is very nice. If you read about it, this was originally land that was a mobile home park, which closed in early 2000. The space then hosted several failed development plans. The county was happy to have this development because it was a step towards, quote, revitalizing the area. We're not revitalizing anything here. We're dealing with an area right now that is upscale and is not in need of revitalization. So we think it's incompatible. If you look at any other mini storage locations, you will not find them nestled between two residential subdivisions. We're concerned about traffic even after 5 o'clock up to 10 o'clock at night. So for all those reasons, we just feel that this is not, as the special exception says, would promote the public health, safety, and general welfare.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Nick Stepanovsky, Sable Creek subdivision, actually bordering on the subject property. And again, I'd like to commend you for all the work that you've done with all the subdivisions to try to alleviate concerns and work through the issues. I do have one open concern from last month, and that is that myself and 3 adjacent neighbors all have elevated lots above this subject property, and just concerned about the line of sight. The slides we've shown have all been level field of view. So we do have concerns about if we'll be able to look in and see those vehicles in the center of the property. So that's my selfish concern there. The second concern is I'd like to make sure that there is an emphasis ongoing for traffic light there at Roscoe Turner. I think that will go a long way to alleviate a lot of concerns for a lot of people. I could see from the traffic study or the markup on the plan, there is no way to go northbound without a U-turn. And I see those U-turns happening at Roscoe Turner. I see those U-turns happening in front of Sable Creek and Cypress Head. And to try to turn at Williamson and Airport would be just a disaster with a boat or an RV. I'm sure you can understand that. So I do have a concern in that, and I would like to, second the notion that there really should be a traffic signal there. That's it.
Thank you.
Tim, do you know if there's any conversation with the county regarding that? Wayne?
Yeah, I believe basically the county have indicated that they'll be looking into that, but it's going to be later on in the year then.
Well, they're in their budget as well, right?
Yeah, but it's basically, it's a county intersection, they'll have to look at it, and if it's warranted, then it meets all the requirements, but that's, the county would have to do the report, which is not being done right now. It's going to be in the future then.
It's been a problem for a long time. It's not now happening. It's just been going on for a long time.
What stimulates that process? What initiates that process? Is there something that the city or
I believe the residents have spoken with the Volusia County Traffic and Engineering, who is basically the ones that would go ahead and do the study there. Basically, from what I heard, that they're basically planning, proposing to do that then. So that step has been made now. We have to wait to see if the study gets done and what the results are.
Does the city council have to make a motion to try to push that forward or no?
I think it's like, county roads. It would be the county study then. So it's, in the hands of the county right now.
Will they conduct, when they conduct their study, will they conduct their study on the current traffic, or will they conduct it on what's going to be perceived as the future in relation to deciding whether or not they need
I can't speak as to how they do their warranted study without, seeing a scope yet. That would be, when they basically prepare to do it then is when they create the scope, and we would see what's being prepared at that time then.
So what I'm asking for the residents is, since they need to initiate with the county to get the study done, should they do it immediately, or should they wait until this thing is open so that they do a study based on the traffic, the actual traffic
I think,
load?
they've already been contacting, from what I understand, the Volusia County Traffic Engineering.
Just
so
need
it's
to
on
keep
the radar
on it then.
Yes.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else?
No, just a quick follow-up on the traffic lights.
One per, sorry. And Glenn, you wanted...
one turn too.
I was going to try to respond to some of the concerns, and first of all, if I can lift this.
Sure.
First of all, I greatly value the input we've received tonight, just as we received the value last time. These are going to be our neighbors as well. These are going to be our potential customers. We want to make certain that we do everything possible to make sure that we work together with them to make sure this is the best possible scenario. For instance, in your case, regarding the height of your location, we're going to look at that to make sure that we're there. The same thing, I heard some concerns regarding the fact that they want to make absolutely sure there's nobody working on vehicles at the location. And I put that as part of our conditions, but I want to make sure that we clarify. That includes changing tires, that includes impact wrenches, everything like that. We're not going to have people working on on vehicles at that location. So that's all there is to it. That will be a condition of this request. Second, I've heard obviously some thoughts that some folks would like to take this site and rezone it. That is a problem from a taking standpoint, as you can imagine, especially since this site has been zoned for commercial for 23 years. I suspect everyone in here who was concerned about that now came in after that period of time and therefore knew that this site was zoned for commercial. It was zoned commercial from a planning standpoint. This was going to be a major intersection, and it has turned into a major intersection over time. It will be more of a major intersection as time goes on. That's where you generally put commercial like this. So that's why it was put there. And I will tell you something else. If this was residential with 10 acres on this site, and you'd put maybe 4 or 5 units per acre, you'd have far more traffic impact than you're going to have with what's being proposed today. That's right now, residential is assessed at basically around 10 trips per day per unit. So you'd have probably, 50 units, 500 trips. That's twice as much as what's being proposed right now, even if this was residential. But again, what we're talking about is probably a 20th of what any other major use would be. So we've tried to listen to them. Was there any concerns that you've heard tonight that I haven't addressed?
Hazardous material.
That's a good one. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yes, I thought that was a great point. And obviously, 20 or 30 years ago, you didn't have the same standards and the same technology that you have now in looking at this. We have specific provisions in all of our contracts. No combustible materials, no paints, nothing like this, because we know what could happen, and it's for our liability insurance as well. On top of that, like I say, we have cameras, and so all those cameras feed into, and they're taped. They're taped for everyone who's there, everyone who's bringing things in. That's taped as to what you're going to see. So, as far as you're concerned regarding somebody doing something, right, we have prevented that. We monitor that. We see that. If we see someone doing something like that, they're out. It's that simple. Okay. So, was there any other questions I have not addressed?
Home values. Somebody mentioned home values.
It is interesting because my client was showing me a report from a real estate consultant on a different project where they asked that question, and they were saying it has absolutely no effect. And in fact, if you look at this, again, ask yourself this question. If this was a Wendy's and some other things, because Wendy's I don't need a full 10 acres for, what is my home values going to be next to that? I would think that this, in fact, would have the minimal impact on home values, and in fact, may in fact be better because of the vegetation surrounding it, especially for the Sable side, because you're not even going to see that at all. And again, the same thing. For Roscoe Turner, the fact that you're not using Roscoe Turner for your entrance, which logically, like I say, could happen, that's something that would also have an impact on the sanctuary values. Now, I did want to bring up one thing, and I'm glad you reminded me of this. There was a concern regarding a traffic signal. You know, how do we get a traffic signal? Tim is absolutely correct. This is a county issue. This is a county roadway. They'll look at it. You have to have a warrant for traffic signal. You have to have a certain amount of traffic. The county looks at it on various bases. They look on the amount of traffic. They look on the amount of turns. They look on the amount of accidents. If there's a lot of accidents in that location, they'll look at it. But I will tell you something else. One of the things you can do is you can do a resolution of support for a traffic signal. You can't require it, but you can do a resolution of support. And I've had other cities do that for various traffic signals, and the county and DOT have listened to them after that resolution. So that might be something you might want to consider recommending to the City Commission. And of course, we would have no objection to that.
And that for Crane Lakes. Any more questions from the board?
You ready to vote? We'll make a motion.
Motion and second.
What about the schools?
You got to come up to the podium if you're going to say something.
I didn't hear that. Well, you were asking about.
My name is Terry Ann Block. I live in the sanctuary. We have a couple of smaller kids that drive their bicycles to school. And so my question is what about the schools? There's already bad traffic accidents at, yes, Airport Road. There's tons of those. So what, and again, someone mentioned the type of vehicles that these are going to be coming. They're going to have a trailer on them, and they're going to have extra tonnage behind them. How are they going to stop when a kid who, kids will be kids, are stupid and they do not look for the traffic? So I guess the question is what about extra traffic lights? And I get the traffic light situation, but you're not considering a big old truck coming in and nailing a kid. So that's my question.
I can answer that, and thank you. First of all, the traffic issue, like I say, part of it is the decel lanes that we're providing. We're providing a decel lane on both Williamson and on Airport, so they'll have a place to slow down before anything happens at that location. That's one thing. Secondly, the amount of traffic, by reducing the amount of traffic, it actually creates a far safer environment for the children on the sidewalk. You'll have far less trips per day going in and out of this thing. If this was a Wendy's or something like this, and again, if I was going to put something here, that's the sort of thing I would put there, because you have schools there, and that's the sort of thing that would attract a market for that location. If you had a number of cars coming in, a lot more cars coming in, and by the way, when you have a drive-through restaurant, you don't prevent a person with a trailer from coming in, you don't prevent a person from a van from coming in. You'd have all those things still happening, and you'd have more. You'd have far more. So, but I agree with you. We've done everything we can to prevent that, and the decel lanes will help prevent that. And the sidewalks, as you're going past this area on your sidewalk?
The sidewalks are going to stay.
Yes, that's correct.
All the way from.
Is that right?
Sanctuary
yes.
all the way to
I want to make
schools.
sure. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. One more.
This one.
My name is Mario Longo, and I live in Sanctuary. Like he says, the gentleman says, there's been 30 years in there. 30 years ago, there was not that many houses around there. There was not that many cars around there. Pretty soon, they already started building down the road. There's going to be another 10,000 houses in there. I'm concerned about the situation that last year my wife got hit by a car, by a truck, construction truck, making a U-turn right in Russell Turner. And they're not supposed to be allowed. Besides that, the value of the house, my neighbor bought a house that I looked at it when I bought my house. It was $250,000. He bought it for $150,000. So that means the value is going down, and with that, it's going to be even worse. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mario.
We made it.
I think you
already went
were
up.
first. You were already up.
But he's the attorney of record.
He's the client.
He's representing the developer.
Big difference.
No, we ready to make a motion?
We already made one in a second.
Yeah, we have a
Okay.
motion and it.
My only point is when you have a list
Sir,
of
you-
Wendy's or whatever else could go.
So you need to come up.
Did not include a professional building.
Sir, it's on the list. A professional building could be there. It was already discussed to death that every other possible use would create more traffic than this. It's already been addressed and documented. Thank you very much, sir. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
John Junko?
Yes.
Maria Mills Bennett?
Yes.
Bo Bafemi?
Yes.
Mike Arminio?
No.
Thomas Jordan?
Yes.
Newton White?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. And again, we'll continue with make sure.
Would you like to call a 5-minute recess?
Fine.
5-minute recess?
I'm hungry.
5 minutes.
No problem. That's turning lane. That's going to be trouble.
Man, I was running out of doodles, man.
I meant 2 hours.
Good God. somebody. I think you need to limit, in a situation like this, we need to limit the amount of people who would come up.
Well, we tell them that they can't repeat the information.
Everybody's
So
repeating
I know,
tonight,
if they're
though.
repeating it, then we shoot them down real
Yeah.
fast. This is Newton's first time on the chair there, so I gotta come, this poor guy
He's
some
rocking
slack.
that, Newton. You're rocking. Can somebody bring us a beer? Because I need one right about now, please. Do what? A half an hour ago. I told him I probably wouldn't be there till sometime between 6:30 and 7, but good Lord.
I had some surgery back in March.
Oh, I had my thyroid taken.
We just like
Radiation. Mine was radiation. I'm on county board for CFAB for the county.
So I'm going to
Our board, the same situation.
You're taking your life in your hands. There's no detail lane. There's no room stand.
Because she has such a hard time.
They are doing some power. So this is going to be.
Has it helped?
You're going to have a trail. You're going to be, you're going to have 7, 8 tons of.
Put in his office.
You don't have a whole lot of area to slow down. But it's starting right here.
Don't want to hold you back. Just go, hello.
All right, let's get this thing going. Come on. Got things to do. Come on, everybody.
We're coming back.
Yeah, we have a lot of items.
We still got to stay.
Yeah. Let's go.
Got to wait till, there we go.
No, it's all done.
Hey, guys, Drew, we're coming back. Stay, guys.
It's about a meeting.
Meeting back in order. Next item. Item number 6, case number 17400000001. Eighth Amendment to amend the restated Port Orange Gateway Center Planned Commercial Development PCD Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan at 1771 Dunlop.
Good evening.
Penelope, it's all you.
Good evening, Penelope Cruz, planner. This item, as well as the following item, has been requested by the applicant to be continued to a time into the future. This is for items that are between the actual developer and the owner and the existing tenants there. It's nothing about technical issues or anything like that. It's just something that they've requested that we continue to a date in the future. Not a specific date. It may not be next month. It may be the month after. But so we just, this item as well as the next one into the future.
Okay, point of order. Do we need to table this or do we need to?
We need a motion from you to continue to a future date.
Just to a future date.
Yeah.
Someone, we need a motion to
We'll make a motion to continue this.
Second.
No set date.
Are these two cases that we should add together?
Yes.
Okay.
Both of them.
Motions.
Okay, I'll second that.
This is 174000001.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion for item 7.
I make a motion to table case number 1750000003 until a future date.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8, case number 17-400000003, 15th Amendment to the Countryside Plan Unit Development, Master Development Agreement, and Conceptual Development Plan at 1058 Dunlawton Avenue.
Tim Berman, Community Development. This is another MDA amendment to the Countryside PUD. I think it's similar to a number of things that you guys have seen lately come before you. Amendments to the MDAs or actually zoning, conventional zonings back to basically the standard commercial uses allowed here. When this MDA was done 20, 30 years ago, it was very restrictive in the use on that property. All this amendment is doing is basically expanding on those commercial uses to what's allowed currently in the community commercial zoning district. There's no deviations proposed. Any future development on the site will require site plans and fully comply with all the city land development code requirements. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed 15th Amendment to the Countryside PUD Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan. And the applicant's also here if you have any questions regarding their proposal.
Okay, we'll start with John.
No questions at this time.
I'm good.
Do we have any plans for the building? Is there something in the...
They indicated to us they're looking at building a multi-tenant building, commercial multi-tenant building with at least 3 tenant spaces there. No tenants have been identified yet, but that's what they've just indicated to us then.
Same footprint?
I think it's the same. The building will be demolished. It'll be the same general area.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
But the site will be, the building will be in a different location than the current bank, though.
All right. Thank you.
Mike?
No, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it was just zoned bank, and that was it.
Yeah, the way they did on the Countryside one, they had some of the areas were commercial or office, broad categories. Other ones were very specific.
It's like bank.
It
It's a
says-
lot in major corridor.
As an arrow and a bank use. That's it. We're changing it to be commercial.
Mr. Jordan?
Well, that was my question. I'm trying to figure out, because we sit here sometimes and we talk about, okay, we got this going on. Let's restrict this parcel to exactly what they're talking about. At some point in time, somebody said, let's restrict this parcel to a bank.
Well, I think
Must have been a reason why.
When you look at the way the Countryside conceptual development plan was done, at the time it was done, there was some uses that were already existing out there.
Right.
And then there was the future planned uses there. And I think basically at that time, they were just probably listing what they were, because, I mean, it says KFC on there.
Well, I mean,
So, I mean, that's what was there. So I think it's, I mean, I think that's, they listed the uses that were there, and the proposed ones were more general.
What the hell? Bank? Well, because I remember when Wendy's first came in, they had to get approval to do the drive-through, because we didn't allow those in our codes, I think, at the time.
Yeah, that MDA, which is not part of this one, but basically, yeah, some of those master development agreements restricted drive-throughs.
Yeah, because I know Sundays came back because they're like, if they get one, we want one. Yeah, I remember.
Oh, is that when the dinosaurs were walking the earth, Mike?
Pretty much. That was before Nova.
Hey, yeah, I agree with this. This is, was pretty restrictive to limit it to a bank, and seeing how the bank that's next to my office is closed up and they're looking for anything else but a bank to go in there as well, I think it's probably a pretty good idea to let something else go in there. Is there any public comment on this?
We need another bank like we need another gas station.
Yeah, like a Wawa.
Well, it's probably going to be a pharmacy.
Does the developer here want to talk us out of it?
No.
You get paid whether you're here or not.
Are you sure?
I'll entertain a motion.
Could I ask a question, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman? Thank you very much. Tim, could you answer a question for me? Could this be a pharmacy based on the fact that it's not going to be just a bank?
Correct, it could be a pharmacy at that location.
Thank you. I'm through, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Certainly, Mr. Jordan. Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Jordan?
Make a motion to approve case number 17-4000003.
Second.
I don't think
Motion
there were
and a
any
second.
recommended.
Please call the roll.
John Junko?
Yes.
Maria Mills Bennett?
Yes.
Can we take it back?
Bo Bofamy?
Yes.
Mike Armenio?
Yes.
Thomas Jordan?
Yes.
Newton White?
Yes.
I'm with that.
Item number 9, case number 17-2500005. Land Development Code Text Amendment, medical marijuana use revised to be consistent with state law. Ms. Cruz.
Penelope Cruz, planner. So we were before you a few years ago, passing the original proposed language in our code, and since then, the state has adopted new regulations this past June that basically preempt local government in this arena here. So we're really left with 2 options now. Our current regulations are not enforceable based on state law, so we're left with 2 options: to either ban it fully, council in August, and to be consistent with state law.
Jordan, start at your end today.
All that work we did on all this stuff kind of
We were hoping
preceded by the state.
that if we got our regulations passed first, that we would get some kind of grandfathered in that, you would,
Karma.
yeah, like, we were hoping, because they have in the past with some things said if you have regulations adopted before these regulations, yours are able to stay, but they didn't do that this time.
The problem I have, and if you've seen me or heard me or whatever talk about it, is giving you either or. The state coming down saying either or, either ban them or have them wherever you want to put them with the pharmacies. So that's my issue, is that taking control, state takes control away from the cities. I know it's nothing that you can get on to, but I think that the way we had it was good. Because I was fine with only having 3 or 4 here. Down the road when this gets more popular, maybe when it's all completely legal, then it'll be a whole bunch of different worms. But I think we were good where we were, and that's my issue with it. But the one question I did have, when it says remove medical marijuana dispensaries, a special exception use in community commercial zoning district, remove medical marijuana cultivation and medical marijuana processing facilities, a special exception uses in the commercial and industrial, light industrial zoning districts. What would they be classified as? Or if somebody comes forward and says they want to start growing pot, or I want to be a facility that manufactures it, what can we do? What will we?
So state law completely preempts local governments on those uses. So basically, anywhere agriculture is allowed, cultivation would be allowed, and anywhere industrial is allowed, the processing would be allowed.
So that means that we could have Green Acres growing pot and then go right around the corner to Eastport, and you can be doing
processing.
If they're an approved, they still have to be one of the listed organizations that are approved by the state to grow it. Not anybody can just go grow it.
No, I understand that. If you have a plot of land, they're taking away restrictions from us now. So, what I'm saying, though, is that are there areas, because I don't think there was any areas in the city that, if I remember correctly, that there was,
There was a few spots in the industrial that it was a special exception.
Zoned it.
It would have been a special exception. They had to come in, meet the criteria for the special exception, and get approval from Planning Commission, City Council to do a special exception. We don't have any say in that right now.
So what is the process now?
So if they were an approved agency from the state to cultivate and produce, they would be a permitted use in either agriculture or industrial, and they would come in and do a site plan if needed, or a building permit to do that facility.
So they go directly to the state?
No, they'd have to deal with us as far as if it was a vacant site, they'd still have to do a site plan, or if it's an existing building and they need to do a tenant build out. But there wouldn't be any kind of special exception or anything like that.
So there's still hoops they have to jump through.
You treat it just like any other,
The basics.
if it was like a nursery,
Right, yeah.
if it was like a regular nursery.
Staff level.
Staff level, right.
But so we've taken the cover off of it, basically, where we had control of the cover of where we
had them all as special exceptions, and we had additional criteria. We had 1,000-foot separation requirements. The state has 500 from only a school. We had it from a school, from churches, things like that. So, but we don't have that option.
Are those restrictions with pharmacy, are those restrictions like for the CVS or Walgreens? Do they have a limit to how far they can be away from the school?
No, they don't. But that's the one restriction that the state put in the legislation. So that's one restriction that they put in there. You treat it as a retail pharmacy, except for it has to have a 500-foot separation.
Between church and schools?
From, not churches.
Just schools?
Just from private elementary,
Or people
middle,
from the church go right
and
there.
high schools, not daycares and things like that.
Did you say private?
Public too. Public schools.
Public and private.
Okay.
That's about the only restrictions that you
That's the only restriction.
other than what the pharmacies already have.
No, I'm good.
No, I don't think so. I'm good.
It's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time till we sit back and deny the reality that this is happening. There are more states happening. It's growing. And I just think that basically, it's going to be a forward motion, and it's going to be very hard to stop when the other states start doing it. And every year, another state joins this organization of legalizing it. So, and again, being having 2 parents, and one of the 2 probably would like to use it for medication, would ease their pain. I see a benefit in this. So, that's my thoughts.
And it's not that I'm against it. My problem is where we're at here at the Planning Commission. We're taking that control away from our city to where they can go. We don't want
Not
to
the state did.
No, I'm not saying, I'm.
Take it away from us.
No, I mean, but basically what it's doing though is that we can have them sprout up like we have the Wawas in the gas stations and the banks and the CVS's and all that stuff, where we can have them like Starbucks on every corner, if they're within those reins of just rules.
Well, and it especially puts us in a worse spot because, like tonight's the first item tonight. They had to come before us, gives the public an opportunity to question, to bring up objections. It's like the traffic lights. We don't have any say on that. We have absolutely no say on where the traffic lights go. People complain about Dunlawton all the time, and now they're going to be complaining about Williamson and Airport. We have no control.
LPGA.
There's going to be a dispensary go in somewhere in the city, and we have no control of whatsoever as far as any public officials go, appointed or elected. And people are going to be upset.
Yep.
We're going to say, go talk to Mr. Scott.
Yeah. There's one open in Edgewater, I believe another one in Deltona already.
Yeah.
Volusia County. I have no.
And the room's not full of people for this one. Isn't that funny?
Right.
We have a motion. We've been preempted by the state. I don't believe we have a motion on the floor yet.
No, it's the last one.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 17-2-500-0005.
Second.
Call the roll.
John Junko?
Yes.
Maria Mills Bennett?
Yes.
Bo Bofamy?
Yes.
Mike Armenio?
Yes.
Thomas Jordan?
Yes.
Newton White?
Yes. All right, commissioner comments.
What end are you going with?
We'll start with you, John. I slighted you earlier, so we'll
That's
start
fine. I'm just two-part. I'm trying to do a follow-up if there was any follow-up on the road markings in that area behind the that road that I had brought in off of Nova. Was there anything followed up on that? Get up here.
Come on, Wayne. You thought you were going to escape out tonight.
He's actually sinking lower in his seat.
I know.
Put the two of them at the other end.
So you have to walk by them, right?
We've got brand new high definition TV cameras in here. You're being,
Hi, everybody.
You're being
I already got to do it
broadcast
Tuesday, so I've had practice. Wayne Park, the Community Development Director. Pass that on to Public Works, and it's on their maintenance.
All right, my second question is that transition point behind the Goodwill and the new Goodwill in front of the Dunlawton, but their rear parking lot into that road has a heck of a dip. I mean, you'll see scars from mufflers all the way across, and even has a sign that says dip. I have a pickup truck, and that thing even is abrupt with the pickup truck. The other transition on the other side is very smooth. There must have been something drastically with elevations in a surveyor that they just did it, and all of a sudden they put that dip in there.
Pipe, right? There was a pipe under the road.
Conduit or something?
No, like a drainage pipe.
Is there any way that can
There's
be?
a separation where they want it buried a certain depth, so they put dirt over it, which created that.
Is there any way that elevation can be less drastic? I mean, if you just go there and take a picture of it, you will have evidence of what it's done to cars.
Because it first came up, it was probably a year and a half ago. It might have been even before I went up to Asheville when it started.
I haven't been using it since recently, and I just noticed it.
We had the owner look at the idea.
Be under review and hope to enter construction. And that's the only updates that we've had on Riverwalk at this point.
Sooner or later, he's going to come do a presentation telling us how the condo's going, right?
Probably. Yes, I mean,
Fingers crossed.
I mean, right now, the only thing we've got submitted on that has been this linear park then.
When we approved that, I remember my quote was, I don't want to see another plan for Riverwalk.
Yeah, I mean, he still has time, in his time frames to bring those other items forward.
That was kind of what my question was. Have we got anything at all there?
Just the linear park is all we've got at this time.
Are we sure he's still?
They indicated to us that, they're still working on items within that time frame, but I mean, that's all we've been told from them. It's, it's the linear park submittal, and that they still are moving forward the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Arminio?
Yeah, good to see some things happening down on the Ridgewood Quarters South portion of it outside the CRA. You know, the medians are all torn up now. A lot of people were upset because they actually killed the plants that were there and pulled the stumps out and didn't move them somewhere else. But other than that, it's nice to see something going on down there. Riverside, it's nice driving home to see a nice paved road with stripes on it. I know at one time, because I know it's part of the trail, that was talked about to be maybe turning into a one-way north or one-way south Riverside, because it's part of the trail. Is that something?
Yeah, we had submitted a TPO project back about a year or 2 years ago on that one, and that was one of the things we asked the feasibility study to look at that option.
Yeah.
Since that time, FDOT has basically, it's going to fund a study that looks at a 12.5-mile segment of a larger regional trail that would go in this area. And one of the items that they'll be looking at that is to possibly one-way Halifax Drive with the trail on the other side then. So that's
Halifax and Riverside or just Halifax?
I mean, Halifax and Riverside down, you know, basically it would go from South Daytona to New Smyrna Beach, so it would include that area in Port Orange. That's in a study phase right now, so they're still looking at that.
So we're like 20 years, I'll be dead.
They're actually moving pretty, we just talked about this on Parks and Rec, they're actually moving pretty quick.
There's a time limit on the money that they put forward to this, and it's basically very aggressive, aggressive time frame, so it's, you know, they're moving along.
Well, I mean, what I'd like to see, though, the reason I'm bringing that up is because it looks nice that they repaved it and all that stuff, but we are one section of the city that are limited on our sidewalks. And if they could narrow that down, if they are making it one-way instead of just a one-way street, this way it would open us up to actually have some sidewalks down there, because it is dangerous. In front of my house from about where, well, you didn't have sidewalks down there either.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you go from about, I guess, Commonwealth, or no, maybe Niver. From Niver all the way to the end of Riverside, there is no sidewalks.
That's what that proposal will look at.
Yeah.
There's like little areas there are, but I mean, a lot of times you got to go off onto the road if you're walking down Riverside with your dog or kids, you ride a bicycle, whatever. It's very dangerous. But anything going on with the property, speaking of Riverside, the property right there.
The 4 acres.
The 4 acres.
The one with the wall?
Yeah, the wall.
Yeah, we had recently had I believe it was today, had a pre-application meeting for a residential community going in there, around 24 units. It'll actually be, kind of a description will be in the weekly report that comes out tomorrow then. So,
cool.
But like I said, we just had a pre-application meeting, and they anticipate possibly submitting here before the end of the year.
Is it a townhome project or is it actual homes?
Actual single-family homes.
Very cool. Very cool. You sold them right time.
Basically, it's going to be a PUD, so it might be an item that will be coming back before you guys.
It's not going to have a marina out in a little bay, right? That was one thing that was specified at one time that they were trying to go for when they were going to do the townhomes, the condos or whatever there.
I believe it's basically something that they're looking into, and they may be requesting for a marina at that location.
Really? Oh, you sold right time.
Slips, is that what you said?
Yeah, just.
Penelope said just slips.
Because I know one time they got shot down because they're only going to be allowed to exit off of onto Ridgewood.
I mean, it'll be a marina for the units.
Yeah.
Not for public use.
Not for public, just the units.
Oh, basically like it has in Harbor Point.
Correct, yeah, just the tenants would be able to use the slips then.
They just want to get one slip per house, so 24 slips at this point.
So cramming them in there.
It's 400 feet.
Yeah, that's cramming them in there.
But still, it's still conceptual, so
Yeah,
we're still.
Well, no, it's good to see something's going on down there. I mean, that's my point.
Mr. Jordan? Yeah, I had one question for you on the Nova Road, Clark Properties, Waffle House, that connector. And Andy promised that would go through. Has that happened? Will it happen?
He indicated in a meeting here that would go through, but it was never put into the master development agreement to require that. So basically, Waffle House, when they develop, they put the connection point as far as they can. We basically need for Andy to either redevelop the all-aboard storage site, and at that time it would be required, or for him to come in and do it. But the only time the code would require it is if Andy redevelops that site.
Don't I remember Andy standing here saying that he would do
I thought we had that put into
It was not in the master development agreement.
Was it in the motion?
I mean, we have the master development agreement. It was not in there. He had promised it, but it was never put into the master development agreement or a condition.
Why didn't they require him to, when they put that teller machine in, to open it up over to the AT&T store? Where the stub out is for on the other side of the, store.
That's not the redevelopment site. So basically we need to have, redevelopment or for him to come through and do it then.
Because when you approve those 3 separate lots, that's when we asked you, because you'd lose about 4
Yes.
parking spots, I believe. And then he's
The
like,
master development agreement, basically for that property, required that connection to be stubbed out. But Andy's property on the other side is not part of that master development agreement. It's not part of there. So any requirements could not apply to property that's not part of that MDA. Because, yeah, so yes, I mean, basically we follow we comply with the MDA and having that stubbed out with the Waffle House. So it's basically ready for whenever that adjacent property owner, Andy, comes through, it'll be made then.
I could have sworn it was part of the motion, but.
Well, then what about where I'm asking, which is, it's the same company, All Aboard Storage, right?
Right.
So when they put that ViStar teller machine in, that's right where that stub out would come in, why didn't, when they developed that, why didn't we
That
require
wasn't
the stub out?
triggering, redevelopment of the site, just a building permit to ATM there. I mean, basically it's stubbed out for the other side too with the, AutoZone, when they redeveloped, they stubbed out to Andy's site then. So basically whenever that site's redeveloped in any way, in terms of, or uses added to it, basically both connections will be required to be made.
It's kind of like with the AT&T and Wawa.
And it's, the discussion would probably be with Andy Clark as to why those were not made when those developments were occurred. I can't speak for him. But that's the person who is, would be responsible for making those connections if they redevelop the site.
It's so much cleaner.
But we've, done what we can in terms of our codes to have that set up so it's ready to connect.
I have no questions this evening. Does Mr. Clark have anything he wants to tell the Planning Commission this evening? Yes.
Stop making him get up and talk.
Move to adjourn?
We have public comments and then adjourn? We're good?
Move to adjourn.
Any public comments?
We're all good. Thank you. I guess that's all. You guys are doing a good job.
I almost forgot you were over there. Sarah, did you have anything before we leave?
No, I have no, I am speechless.
Sounds like a plan. Adjourn.
Let her finish.